So hello and welcome to my stream, Paul AJ. Nice to see you on the chat. I'm sorry, something is not working really great here. Twitch is telling me that the connection is unstable, the bitrate is too high or whatever. We will just try. You might have noticed today we are dipping our toes into a really new waters. Theodorus, finally. Hello everyone. Hello Tiger. Hello Theodorus. Nice to have you on the stream. It is actually on you that we are playing SimRail tonight, because you pointed out that they are doing an ETCS update, and oh boy, did they do an ETCS update. Well, this is so much more ETCS than we have seen so far in the simulation that we have been playing on this on this channel. So I started playing SimRail, and it is really a good game. So if you have not bought it yet, buy it. It's on sale on Steam at the moment. So the money invested there is not wasted, in my opinion, not at all. If you want to buy the DLC that they just issued, is up to you, but at least the base game, there is a lot to do with it. A lot that you can do with it. Yeah, and I can talk about Polish signaling. It's so great that we have a new signaling system that we can talk about, and I am trying to at least get my mind and brain around those Polish words so that I can at least understand what Google Translate is trying to tell me when I try to translate paragraphs, sections, words out of the Polish signaling rules and operating rules that I have found so far. So this is why we are talking about general light signals in the Polish signaling system, and how to read them, how to work with them. And there is actually quite a lot to say about it. I didn't think that it will be so much that we can say about it. Well, let's just dip into the game. This is the game, what it looks like so far. We have Train Driver. This is single player, more or less. If we look at this, if you have not seen the game so far, I will just give you a quick tour. We have 3 routes at the moment, whereas the first 2 routes are from the base game. It's Katowice to Warsaw and Katowice to Jędrzejów or something like this. So in advance to all the Polish speakers out there, I apologize in advance for butchering your beautiful and insanely complicated language, but nevertheless I will try to voice those names and words. So, and it's really quite a long route that we have here in the base game. Katowice to Warsaw Wschodnia, what is, if I understand this correctly, Warsaw East, right? This takes some time, 4 hours in a slow train, and even 3 hours in a high-speed train. And then we have the second route, Katowice to Jędrzejów, what is more or less for the first part the same route, but then it goes somewhere else, and this is more a route where you can run heavy coal trains. And then we still have the training grid that came with the ETCS update, and there are 2 scenarios running there where you can practice the ETCS installation in the game. The editor is not implemented yet. Multiplayer is more or less the core of the game. What is an interesting approach, actually, they have this route, Katowice to Warsaw and Jędrzejów, and this more or less per server runs the whole timetable with AI trains and AI dispatchers for 24-hour circles. Some servers are reset after a shorter time, as you can see, and then you can just go into one of those servers, for example, decide whether you want to go as a driver or as a dispatcher, and then you can pick a train, a specific service that is somewhere in the timetable or a signaling box, and then you plunge in. The train is still on autopilot, and then if you're ready, you can switch off the autopilot and take over the train. So this is quite an interesting idea. The single player world is not so super wide so far, but on the other hand, multiplayer does not really feel like that you have to work so badly with all the other people. But for just getting used to the trains and the route, the single player tutorials and scenarios are actually quite enough, I think. Perny, hey, see you on. Nice to see you on the chat. Yes, SimRail. For a change, we are playing SimRail, talking about Polish signaling. We can all thank Theodoros for that, because he pointed me to this ETCS update, and this got me hooked to this game, because they have a lot of ETCS functionality now. So, why did I take you to the depot? Because we can take a quick look on what rolling stock options we have here. We have quite a lot of the Polish locomotives, the older Polish locomotives from the 60s, more or less. That would be like locomotives that look a bit like this, different versions. They all date back more or less to the British Class 83. So one of those locomotives that are in Trains in the World, for example, not represented at all. Electric locomotives with this tap changer functionality, like the German 111 and 110 classes. They remind you a lot of that, and you have different versions of them. The EU7, the EP7, then the EP08. What is, if I got this correctly, called the Pig, nicknamed the Pig in the Polish locomotive circus. And with the DLC you also have the ET22, what is a bit out of the same line, but with 2 axles more and 2 driving axles more. So it's a C layout, so 2 times 3 axles and driving motors. A beast called the Bük, the Bull. So those are the oldish locomotives that are inside. Then we have trucks, 186. Now we can run, we have a newer Polish locomotive here, the Newak Dragon. That will be that one. Come on, load it. The Dragon locomotive, also like the 186, obviously. Asynchronous AC motors, and there is a steam locomotive in the game, but it is not running yet in the timetables actually. 210 locomotive, big beast. You can see it here in the depot, but not here in the timetable so far. I think this is the locomotive stuff that we have. And then we have some EMUs. Again, Polish ones from Pesa. Like those here. Look quite nice in my opinion. With 2 cars and the other one with 3 or 4 cars, I think. And what do we have? We have the older versions, the EN57 and 71, that feel a bit, when if you drive them like the 1938 subway stock. And Theodore says the ET22 cab kinda shaped like the Vectron. The ET22. I would have said the ET25 is shaped like the Vectron a bit more. Let's have a look. Because the ET22, the big one, let's have a look at that. Enter through the door. And this locomotive, it comes with the DLC. People were complaining that it was quite pricey. What, compared to the base game, it is pricey, but here you have an engine room where you can play around with the valves and have a decent setup process of this thing. So I think you're talking about the ET25, right? The Dragon. That is a bit shaped like the Vectron. Because that is 60s style here. Ah, you meant the exterior. The cab. Ah. Alright. Alright. If you say cab, I thought you're talking about the interior. Exit through the door. So you see, the moving about in the world and through the doors is a bit more clumsy than you have it in Train Sim World, where it looks very nice to me, everything. And we will get to this when we are running one of the services. What they actually managed to do, they have computer screens that don't flicker. They are just super smooth to read. A bit shaped like the Vectron, yeah, because it goes back here a bit like, yeah. But it hasn't the cat's face, the Vectron's cat's face, like the whiskers on top of it. A steering wheel on a train, Perny. Yes, those are those locomotives with a tap changer. Those have a steering wheel, in quotation marks. You have this in Train Sim World on the B155, for example, or the 111, 110 locomotives. And this is where you switch the different stages on your tap changer from 1 to whatever it has, 31 or 42 or something like this. So now I need to get out of the thing again. Now I'm in with 3. I think I can get out. Yes, I can teleport out more easily. Well, we were already with the electric multiple units, the Pesa Elves, are they called? Not because they are elves, or because they are 11. And elf because electric low floor, because as you can see, this is low floor. You can go in there with a wheelchair without needing a ramp or whatever. That's why they are called elves. And CD Radar is not here yet, unfortunately. Those trains only run in Poland, in my to my knowledge, but they have sold some of them to the Czech Republic, to a Czech railway carrier. And the diesel variant, the Pesa Link trains, they are actually in the Deutsche Bahn rolling stock now. They have a handful of Pesa diesel multiple units, Pesa Links, in the Deutsche Bahn red livery by now. Those were the older ones that I've been talking about. They are a bit like the 138 stock of the London Underground. You have an EP brake more or less as the main brake, and throttle, not throttle reverser setting 1 and 2, and it actually with resistors and stuff. So that thing drives a bit like the 38 stock, in my opinion. So enthusiasts, please don't bash me for that. This is my totally subjective opinion. But it is a fun to drive train too. And then we have the Alstom. I think it is originally called the ETR 610 New Pendolino train, built in Italy. Runs as a Frecciarossa in Italia. And a high-speed train with this duck beak style nose. And this is the train where you can run the ETCS on. And well, yeah, I think we will have more of that stuff in streams that are to come. There is a second gen Pendolino, I guess so. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where you count the different generations, but this thing is called the second and the new Pendolino, at least in some sources. The ETR 610, I think, is the number that they give it in the Italian numbering. So I wanted to start with something not too fancy. One of those Pesa Elf services. From here you can see for some of the trains you have a tutorial. For some you have no tutorial. You have to figure it more or less out for yourself. But you have at least one single player mission for every locomotive, and never forget this game is still in early access, so not necessarily what it is supposed to look like at the end. Yep, so Katowice to Zawiercie. That's what I wanted to take you today. Let's see if I can have my marker on here. Yes. So this is, we're starting at the south point. Katowice is the town where the developer actually has its main headquarters. So the SimRail S.A. developer sits in Katowice, so everything starts in Katowice, and it is not a big surprise that we have this route to Warsaw, the Polish capital, in this game as the first route. You can see even that little bit from Katowice to Zawiercie is a bit like here, will take us 1 hour and 10. And what I really like about this train is the cruise control, because that is quite unique. At least I have not seen it on any other train so far, and it makes driving this train really relaxed if you figure out how to work it properly. With the latest update, they also improved the sound that you get on your ears when loading into a scenario. Former times there was like a eep sound, and now it is more a bong sound. It is not so hard on your ears.
Today you will drive passenger train from Katowice to Zawiercie. Begin with checking the radio connectivity with a dispatcher.
And never forget to turn on your train first, enable battery in this thing, and well, we will get points subtracted for it because we opened the doors when outside the station, but I have not figured out how to get onto my train without doing this. And Perni likes the voice, yeah. It is a very friendly voice. So what do we have to do? We have to activate our cab. Here, like this. Then the safety system self-test goes on. We have two safety systems. This Chuvak Activini or something like this, what is more like a vigilant system, and the SHP, what is a bit like an AWS system with the magnets always on regardless of the aspect of the signal. So we're putting up our pantograph. Battery is on, cap selected, pantograph up. Now we can activate the main switch. Now we should have some brake release. Then we use this button to fill our brake pipe quickly. Release the spring brake. We can see that the brake cylinders are filled. Reverse it to forward. Can activate the cruise control and already set a speed of 40, because this is what we were getting on our signal. Signal is still red, as you can see. And one important thing, if you play this game and have not seen it before, there is a thing where you can make the signals more visible here. Signal visibility enhancement level. I put it to 150, because if you put it to 0, this one, you can see, then apply it, then the signals are sometimes really hard to see. At the moment here, it works, but it is already dim a bit, and sometimes it gets even worse. So this is a very important thing. It might kill the immersion a bit. So if you put it to really high and apply it, you can see then it gives a big red dot around it. You don't want to have that, but 150 or something like this is okay. Come on. Go to the 150. This looks like a vector and a startler third combines this turn. Yeah, that is true. And Theodore says press key number 1 and 3 to switch seat and exterior camera. Accessibility Pernia. Yes, Theodore, I tried this, but even if you teleport into the cab by pressing the 1, you will get the points subtracted for opening the doors outside of the station. At least it happened to me. So, return to the game. We have set 40 on our cruise control. It says on this screen here at the same time it tells us that we will use 50% power max. Then we can turn on our radio. We can set it to the correct radio channel. We cannot read the sign here properly. It says the same R2. That tells us to set the radio channel to 2. It will subtract points if you're driving with the wrong radio channel. It's a nice touch in my opinion. And then we can call the dispatcher.
Katowice to 4614, radio check.
This is Katowice. I read you loud and clear.
Katowice 4614 is ready.
Thank you. Wait for signal.
You see, it switches to yellow over yellow, both steady. That means 40 now and prepare to stop at the next signal. And when starting this train, when the cruise control is activated and the speed is set, you can see it here or in the HUD with the blue number, you can just push this lever to the front and then you can see the brake cylinders are releasing, and as soon as this happens you can let go and then the cruise control will take over. And if 50% for the cruise control is not enough, you can use those button OPT plus to allow more or less brake force and acceleration force. And at the same time you can turn the cruise control off with this handle here again. But you can use it to actually slow down and stop your train, this cruise control. So I like to go with a percentage of 60. Keeps the train at a nice 40 through all the switches here. Perny says there are a couple of different voice actors though. Yeah, that's true. Especially in the new DLC they have hired voices that sound more like English speakers and even female ones. So now we are getting closer, and when we are in a position where we can stop the train, you get a message, and then you, if you want to do that, just press the 0 button on the cruise control and the train comes to a nice stop. Number 2 is an outside camera that rotates, and then you can either use this switch here or the keyboard shorts to open the doors. And a very nice thing, number 4 are the installed cameras that show you stuff. I use the number 2 camera. If you open the doors in quotation marks, you don't open them as you know that from Train Sim World 2, but you unlock them. And then if a passenger, let's see if she wants to get on the train. Oh, we are all ready for departure. The guard has already blown the whistle, so we have to lock it. We have to wait actually until this yellow sign here has come off, and then we can set a new speed. What are we allowed? 40 now, 3 later. And then again, always hold the throttle until the brake cylinder is drained, and then the cruise control will take over. Now what I wanted to say, the passengers can open the doors to get in and off the train. and then you have to lock the doors again, and if they are still open because someone just got on the train, then you have to wait until the doors are closed again. If you start early, you will get a lot of points subtracted for driving with open doors. Whereas speeding is not really an offense that is considered so severe, because you don't get really a lot of points subtracted for speeding. Especially if you're slow and slowing down and are speeding a bit. Yes, Theodorus as well. I guess it's not really wrong that nowadays train crew says it's computer on rail. You press button. You press a lot of buttons. Like now it is increased to 70 because we have passed a green signal. I can just press the 70 button and we accelerate to 70. And now to 100. It already has those presets here in this bar. It's super sweet. The 70 is incoming. We can see it here on this sign announcing the 70. Just reduction in speed limit, and we have to stop at the next station anyway. There was a sign that told us to blow the horn. What I like to do is to order the train to slow down to 40 when I'm getting close to the platform. If you think this braking is too hard, you can limit the brake force with those plus and minus keys here. Then it will only take 50% of the brake force. And then if there are like 200 meters left, can hit the 0 button and the train will come to a soft stop. Number 4, to see if everything is safe, unlock. And maybe we can see it now, right? The doors are closed, except for those that are opened by the passengers. So this guy here opens the doors, gets on the train, the doors close again. So this is the difference between unlocking and locking the doors to opening and closing them by force. Very nice touch that is implemented here. On those oldish EMUs, you have even a buzzer that you have to ring before you close the doors. On other trains, you don't open and close the doors at all because this is done by the guard. Here, this guy is opening the doors shortly before we want to go. My HUD is still on, yes. I'm still playing with the HUD here to get used to everything. But I will turn it off one by one. What I did actually was change all the the keyboard shorts. Or I cannot turn it off. Well, I will see where it will get me. At the moment it is good because everyone can see what is happening. What the signals are doing. I think that the signs are sometimes a bit harder to read than what we are used to from Train Sim World because they are so small and a bit flimsy. Katowice, Szopienice, Południowe is the next station. Press G to turn it all off. Yeah! Very nice. You can pull the throttle towards you to have the train coast. And then as you seem fit, click the 40 and the train will slow down to a speed that is adequate when passing along the platform. And then you do not have really a spot where you have to stop your train at the platform. But obviously the train needs to be fully at the platform. And then there are those markers. Here, can you see them? The black one with the white cross. Like the St. George's cross, I think it is. Those mark the spot that you must not pass with your train when stopping at the platform. If you run that, then you have missed the spot at the stop.
Ready for departure.
So check if the doors, see the doors are not closed. Now they are closed. Never forget to set the speed when starting with the cruise control on, otherwise it won't start. When accelerating we can allow a bit more. Now we have a drive-through. The door says, but the timetable is necessary though. Real drivers got Ebola iPad printout version of it. Yeah, actually in the multiplayer mode you have a printed version here that you can look at, and in the new versions of the DLC as well. Also that is a nice touch. It's a drive-through. So you can turn on and off the cruise control just by getting this thing to maintain power or put it one notch towards you. So this is where you can branch off to the right and get to the other line. Sosnowiec Głowny. Signal telling us to expect a stop signal. This Głowny at the end, I think this means as much as main station. Sosnowiec main. So if you're not entirely sure. Yes, Paul. It also see Now I have it to 80% and now it actually brakes with 80%. So if you don't want it to brake that hard, you can reduce it. What I typically do with braking with 80% is a bit much. And this figure here flashes if the cruise control is off, and it is steady as soon as the cruise control is activated. The PIS screens in the single player is only for the trains that you are driving, but this is because there are no other trains in the early single player missions scenarios. So with this plus and minus for the brake and power limit, this actually makes this cruise control really handy. Presentation time now for the signaling, the Polish signaling. So the first thing I want to talk about is semi-automatic and automatic signaling, because we just have talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we looked at the British system, where we had controlled signals, automatic signals, and semi-automatic signals, and those two words reappear here, but with a slightly different meaning, because we will see that semi-automatic signals in the Polish context are more or less the controlled signals that we had in the British system, and automatic signals are the automatic signals. So if you want to read up all the stuff and where I got my data from are those two things that are listed here on the left. If you are able to read that, is this rozporządzenie ministra infrastruktury, that what is more or less the regulatory law given by the Ministry of Infrastructure, what outlines most of the signaling rules. And then we have this Zawiercie do Uchwały from PKP, from the Polish railway carrier. That is more like a directive that you would get from example, the Deutsche Bahn. And those two things give you quite an idea about how those things are supposed to work and how the signals are employed. So again, apologies for all the Polish-speaking people in the world for my butchering, but I still try to pronounce those words, even if I am not at the least qualified to do so. So let's have a look at our example line. This is a double line, what we typically have, and let's have a junction as well, a station or a stopping point here, so that we can have a bit of an example. And in Poland we are driving on the right track typically. We can obviously go on the left as well, but we are typically driving on the right one. And then we distinguish, just like we distinguish this in the British system, between areas where we have controlled signals and areas where we have no control signals but automatic signals in between. Auto block. CD radar, unfortunately, is not here at the moment. But this is the idea. We have areas where we control the signals by the dispatcher. They can be also set to automatic functioning. This is why they are called semi-automatic signals, but they can also be controlled. Whereas in between, to connect them, we have the signals that work automatically on the basis of track circuitry. And so they are typically not controlled. They might probably be set to an emergency stop, but typically they work autonomously if there is a train on the track or not. So again, I will always show the worst aspect that the signal can show to show us what is happening here. We have, just like we have seen this in the British system, typically signals that control the entry to a station or a controlled area and the exit, and sometimes obviously signals in between, but the general thing is entry, exit. And this is why we have a controlled signal in the Polish thing called a semi-automatic signal as an entrance signal. Wjazdowe, entrance signal. And the semi-automatic controlled signals are marked in a way that you can recognize it by a post that is in white, red, and so on. So they are striped, and if you see that the signal has this striped post with white, red alternatingly, you can see it's a controlled one. It's not an automatic signal, it is a controlled one. And obviously you can see those are exactly the colors that we know from German and Austrian signals that denote a main signal. For example, they have the white, red, white mast sign to tell you that this is a main signal and not a distant signal. So a lot of similarities, but sometimes they mean a bit different things. An exit signal, also controlled, would not be the Wjastove but the Wyjazdowe signal, the away signal, the exit signal, and sometimes, at least in the sources that I have read, you can have something like group exit signals or signals that are still away behind grouping some tracks together. Wjazdowe Grupove signal. If there are also intermediate signals, if the group exit signals are exactly the same as those signals here, I'm not entirely sure. I still have to dig deeper into the matter here, but the thing that we have to take away here is that the control signals are called semi-automatic here, and they have those striped posts. Semi-automatic in Polish, semaphory po samoczynne. Samoczynne is more or less the automatic, and po, if I say this at least a bit correctly, po is always like half semi, and semaphory, obviously semaphore is the word that we know. At the next station, same thing again, controlled signal, Wjazdowe and Wyjazdowe signal for entry and exit, and in between we have the automatic signals that subdivide the block from one controlled area to the other controlled area. And the distinction, we can already see, they have a white post. That tells us this is an automatic signal and not a controlled one. What is super important for the driver, we will see that when we talk about the automatic signals more closely, those signals, even if they are red, are permissive. A signal with a white post that is red can be passed according to certain rules by the driver on his or her own authority, not so a controlled one. We think back, Rob told us that this was the case for British automatic signals until a couple of years ago. In Polish system it is still so. So that we can distinguish the semi-automatic signals and the automatic signals, we have to look at the mast signs. If they are put up in a gantry, they even have a sign above them that is either straight white or striped white, red, white, to distinguish the controlled one from the automatic ones. And the last automatic signal, you might remember that from the stream about the signaling on the London Underground, where we have the automatic signals marked with an A in the number and the last one with an X. The last automatic signal is always a bit special because we have to deal with the transition to the control signal area again, that can show much or many more different aspects than automatic signals can show. So that the driver knows that this is the last automatic signal before we get back into a controlled area with semi-automatic signals. You have this sign here, a black circle on a white ground, on a white square, and then with a bigger or less big black circle or dot in the middle. Those additional signs. Hello Lion Voice, says Erica Kelly George. Well, I did not change my name, you did, but nice to have you on the stream anyway. Those additional signs on the signals have the nice name Wyskaźnik, or if they are more, if I get the plural correctly, Wyskaźniki, what are indicator signs, and there are quite a lot and they are quite important. This is the one W18. The Wyskaźnik W18 is the one that marks an automatic signal for being the last one before you get back into a controlled area. So all those automatic signals would form what we call in the English-speaking world the automatic block signals, and in Poland it is called the Samochina Blokada Liniowa, SBL. So if you read SBL, that means that is the auto block that we have in the Polish system. So the automatic signals would be the semafory samochine and the semi-automatic the semafory półsamochine. Main signals so far semi-automatic controlled, automatic signals automatic. Can we have distant signals in the Polish system, just like in German? If you come from the German system, you're always looking for the distant signals, because every main signal needs to have a distant signal. Not so in the Polish system. You can have distant signals, but not all signals have distant signals. Which game is better, Train Sim World or SimRail? Well, it is always the old question. What is better, a knife or a fork? Depends on what you have on your plate, right? And sometimes one is better and one is the other. So I cannot say which one is better. Train Sim World obviously is the bigger one, the most immersive, the more pretty exterior, atmosphere and so on. Maybe SimRail has some nice touches. Play both. Have you tried the multiplayer yet? Asks Perny. Is it cool enough for me to get SimRail? Yes, definitely. Knife is always better, says self-defense. Well, for self-defense, a knife might be better than a fork. We're getting out something out of a hot broth. Maybe a fork is better. Anyway, have both. SimRail costs, like, if it is on discount, like one at the moment, like 27 euros or something like this. If you buy the bundle with the DLC, it's about 40 on Steam at the moment, euros. So that is about what the Train Sim World route costs. So this is not this is no money wasted here. I would not want to get rid of my Train Sim World, but it's definitely a game that you should have to. Broke man bought 10,000 of Train Sim World DLC. Yeah, well, that's the thing. For one Train Sim World DLC, you can buy the whole game here. But let me go back to the distance signals. Tarcza ostrzegawcza is the Polish name, if I get this halfway correctly. It is not a semaphore. A semaphora, it is a tarcza. It is only a sign, a disc, or something like this. So if you put this into your Google Translate, you don't be surprised that this does not translate to signal. And if you think back on the German semaphore things, it is this round yellow disc, like for a distance signal. This is why it is called a disc, tarcza ostrzegawcza. And it can only, like in the British system, as a distance signal, never show a red aspect, only show a yellow aspect. And it has a gray post. So you can already distinguish striped posts, red and white, white posts for the automatic and gray ones for the distance signals. Just don't tell them, let's get this stream on a tangent so we And if you like the German rules, you find this nice board again. What is an NE2 4-signal board in German? Signaling comes back here as a Vyskaźnik. V1 W1 is a sign that marks a signal with a gray post as a distance signal, so that you do not get confused at this point. And they are also announced, like in the German system, with those strike boards, like counting down. Sometimes it is even 4, 3, 2, 1, typically 3, 2, 1, Vyskaźniki W11A, if I got this correctly out of my rules. And then you know, there is a distance signal incoming, then there's the distance signal, and then not necessarily in 1000 meters like in the German system, but in an adequate distance for your braking distance, you get a distance signal before you get to the controlled main signal. So if I got this correctly, then you never get a distance signal in front of an automatic signal, because the automatic signals deal in their own way with this. But for a control signal, typically an entrance signal for a station, you can get distance signals here. Well, automatic we will get to this later. In the 2-aspect automatic block, we can have distance signals, but not in the 3 or 4 aspect automatic block. Can we have distance signal repeaters or signal repeaters at all? Repeater exists, not necessarily for the distant signal. They can even exist if there is no distant signal at front, but they repeat the main signal. Signal povtačající or something like this. SP, repeaters, gray post, and they have, in addition to their aspect, this white lamp light lit up steadily underneath the signal aspect. Can have up to 3, and they are then marked countdown wise with Roman numbers, 3, 2, 1 signal. And those are repeaters, and this white light underneath the signaling aspect reminds you maybe of something in the German signaling system. So this is a KS repeater, for example, in the German system. Don't confuse it, I just show it so that we can see that there are similarities. In the German system, a KS repeater has this white light underneath the signal aspect. So the same here, KS2, like repeating stop aspect on the main signal, and then the white lamp underneath to mark it as a repeater. Same idea here. It looks a bit differently because it is not smaller and it is not on the side, but it is just underneath, and it is as big as the yellow aspect as well, but the same idea. Whereas if you think back, the white light on top in the German system on a distance signal, if you think back what that was, there was a distance signal that is closer than 95% of the regular braking distance. So this distance signal is closer to the main signal. You have to brake harder, you have less distance to slow down your train. Do we have a white lamp on top of the signal in the Polish aspect to say something like this? No. We have something else. If you have two signals that are in a distance that is smaller than the braking distance, not necessarily 1,000 meters like in Germany, but the braking distance for this piece of track and the speeds that can be run there. So if the signals, like here, for example, in a short station or stopping point area, are closer together than the braking distance, so that if I get yellow aspect on this signal, I won't make it to stop in front of this. We have to announce this somehow, and for that we have those signs. They are quite unique. I have not seen them anywhere else so far. One arrow downward, white, can be a sign like just a board, or can be an illuminated thing, because sometimes there are junctions afterwards, so you don't necessarily know if you need it or not. So one arrow pointing downwards is a Vyskaznik W19, and it says, careful, the distance after the next signal is shorter than the braking distance. And then you get on the next signal the two arrows, the Vyskaznik W20, and tells you from this signal on you don't have the full braking distance. So this is the equivalent of the white light on top of the signal here. This purports this indication. What does Perny say? What do you think about the fact that it's an early access game that dropped the pricey DLC? I don't mind it at all. It's obvious that they need money to keep the thing running. At the same time, they dropped an update that gave you for free the whole ETCS implementation. That is a big one, really a big one. And at the same time, the logos appear in the timetable. The DLC logo, I mean, appears in the timetable. You just cannot play it, but you can see it at least. So the timetable is just as full as if you buy it. And then after all, it is not so super pricey, this DLC. It looks pricey if you compare it with the price for the whole game. Yeah, I can see that. But on the other hand, it's like a normal price. It's $20 for the DLC. That is what the local DLC in Train Sim World is almost, and it is, if you look at it, is almost like one of those Pro line locos, because you have the engine room, you have the full startup procedure for this locomotive with the valves in the pneumatic installations in the engine room. So I really don't mind. I can understand that people say they should get their early access thing out of the way before they release a DLC, and this might be true, would have been true if they had not released anything else for the game, but with the ETCS implementation, that is a huge add-on to the game that came for free for everyone who was in early access. So I don't mind it. I don't think that that should be a general rule that you can't release DLCs before you get out of early access. Better add more things like the ETCS implementation to the game before you leave early access than before not doing it. Back to our signals. So we have seen control signals, automatic signals, distance signals, touch of OSJD, repeaters, signal powtarzające. We have seen those wskaźniki that tell us about a shorter stopping distance. Anything else? So let's get the German stuff out of the way. Yeah, because we see that there are a lot signals that are blue. They have a super nice blue light, especially when you're running at night. They give you this really spacey atmosphere with everything tinted in blue. Those are shunting signals, shunting stop signals, like the purple ones in France or in Germany, and in the United Kingdom they are red anyway. So those only stop a shunting service. Again, we have the distinction between a shunting movement and a train service. So as a train running according to a timetable, you must you don't need to stop at those signals. As a shunting service, you do. So if you're starting your train as a shunting service, you have to wait for this signal being switched to a proceed aspect. So this is again not a signal, but a tarcza manewra, manewrowa. You can see the maneuver thing in it, yeah, manewrowa for the shunting, and it is called an MS1 that orders you to stop, and it can be switched to a white light MS2. Then it is a proceed aspect for your shunting service. So even if you're running around, you can pass them as a train without any problem. So those are the signals that you encounter. Never forget that there's a distinction between the controlled and the automatic signals. The one with the white light are repeaters that precede. Typically a controlled signal. I don't think that you can have them in the auto block. At least I have not seen them, and I have read somewhere that they cannot appear in the auto block. The distance signal can also only appear in the 2-aspect auto block. We will get this. Typically they appear for the control signals, and those countdown boards for the distance signals, and sometimes they also appear for other signals that cannot be seen from afar. So they can also be introduced by those countdown boards. So don't be surprised if you see the countdown boards and not a distance signal, but for example an automatic signal that is behind a bend or sitting somewhere where you cannot see them from afar. So what aspects can those signals show now? The semi-automatic ones and the automatic ones, and we will see those are actually different aspects that they can show. The semi-automatic ones are quite easy if you know those signals here. So this is just, don't be jump scared. This is just something that I copied from the video about the HL signals in Eastern Germany. This is what we had in the German Democratic Republic before 1990. The signals that need to be read from below, then we know what we have to go now, and then on the top one it tells us what to expect on the next signal. And why are they more or less the same signals that we have here in Poland? Because they all go back to the OSJD or OSSHD signals, the Organization for Cooperation of Railways, that the countries in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union had where all this comes from, and this is why Poland and the German Democratic Republic have those signals after World War II. So let's look at what those signals look like in Poland. Again, the same matrix. We only have to memorize 2 times 4 aspects actually to understand the signaling system, even if we have like 13 different aspects on those signals. Obviously the rep one is the numbering SA1. The numbering is different, so the names are different from the Eastern German signals in the Polish signaling system, but the aspects are the same and they look a bit different from the signal head, but the aspects are still the same. S for Świetle, what means light or something like this is the word. This is why it is called S. It also means stoi, but only the S1, the rub one, stop. You must not pass this signal, obviously. So this is a special one. So I put it in the corner here. And then just let's do the same what we did with the HL signals in Germany. Here we only look at the top. Here we only look at the bottom. If we only look at the bottom, it tells us what we have to do now. If it is black, we don't have any restriction. Vmax now. For Vmax 100, we have yellow with green, Vmax 60 yellow with yellow, and Vmax 40 yellow with black. So every time we have a yellow on the lower part, it is a speed restriction. If the stripe, the bar is green, it is 100. If it is yellow, it is 60, and if it is black, it is 40. We will get, but this is a different stream, I guess, when we get into speed signaling, there can be additional signs that can increase this limit from 60 to 70, 80, 90, or from 40 to 50, or from 100 to 110, 120, 130 with an additional sign with a numeral, like we know this from German signaling or French signaling or Swiss signaling or whatever. So with an additional numeral we can upgrade those aspects, but we will look at this in a different stream. The basic one is like this, and this is the bottom half. The top half is this. If it is green, we can expect Vmax on the next signal. If it is green flashing, we have to expect that we will be reduced to 100 at the next signal. If it is yellow flashing on the top, then we have to expect to be slowed down to 40 or 60. We don't know it here. We need to know our timetable and our signals, whether it is 60 or 40. If you don't know, prepare for 40. And then if it is a steady yellow, then we have to prepare for a stop at the next signal. And then we have this 4x4 matrix, and we can build our signals. If we take the top one from the line and the bottom one from the color, and then we can go through it. The numbering again is different. In Poland we just count from top to bottom, and then we go to the next column. S2, S3, S4, S5. Those are the signals that don't restrict the speed at the moment, but they announce a restriction at the next signal. Those are the signals that limit you to 100 and announce something for the next signal. Those are the signals that limit you to 60 now and announce something for the next signal, and those are the signals that limit you to 40 and announce something for the next signal. And then you can just pick any signal. Let's just say the S11A, for example. You look at the bottom, you see yellow with yellow, okay, 60 here, and a flashing green on top, okay, 100 at the next. This is how this system works. It is quite ingenious. Perny says, you said in one stream that a spreadsheet was available in the Discord, but I couldn't find a link anywhere. To the Discord or to a spreadsheet? The spreadsheet for the calculation. I will put a Discord invite under the next video. Perny, no problem. I just never put a constant link because I don't want links that are valid forever scattered all over the net. So I will always put a 7 days limited link, but I will put it on the next video. Just check it out. Okay, that is this. that is the OSJD signaling system for Poland. And sometimes even you have those bar thingies thatched a bit to the side or tilted, shifted is the better word, shifted to the side in the signals that you see here in the game. Those aspects can appear on semi-automatic signals, the one with the striped post. So, and we will see on automatic signals we only have a limited variety of those, and also on repeaters and distance signals. Superpaul says, is the restrictions always until the next signal or also sometimes until the end of the switching area? That is a good point. Typically it is until the next signal, but the tip of the train needs to pass the next signal for the new speed to become valid. Whether we have something like the anschließende Weichenbereich, so that it ends prematurely, if it is an exit signal, I am not entirely sure. I am not deep enough in the operating rules yet to answer this properly. For that I have the HUD running to see when the game thinks that the speed limit is ending. Try to compare what the game tells me with what I can find in the rules, and maybe then we can figure something out for that. But typically in a station area at least, it is until the next signal, and then it is okay if the tip of the train passes the next signal to go by the new signal. From what I've seen in the game so far. Those aspects here that don't limit you now, but they announce only, are the aspects that can also appear on distant signals and repeaters. Distant signals, there were the one with the distant signal board, the Vizcashnik W1, and the gray post, and they appear with those aspects here. Same aspects, the signal heads are smaller because they can typically show only yellow and green, and they have this Vizcashnik W1 with them. The names are a bit different. They are called OS for Ostrzegawcze, something like this. Was that the culture of Ostrzegawcze or something like this? This is where this name comes from. OS1 instead of S5, because S1 is here and this is announcing the stop. So we have a discrepancy here in the number for this signal. And the signal repeaters, the ones with the gray post and the Roman numeral, the one with the, or those with the white lamp underneath, same aspect here, but with the white additional lamp. And the numbers are again with the just like the distance signals, 2, 3, 4, 5. The SP for signal powtarzające. Again, all my apologize to the great people who master this language properly. Automatic signals. What aspects can the automatic signals show? We will get to them in a second. They can be red. They can show a red aspect, the stoy aspect. They can show a fully green. And then that's it for the 2 aspect auto block. In the 3 aspect auto block we also get the steady yellow. And in the 4 aspect auto block we also get the flashing yellow. And funny enough, in the 4 aspect auto block, if I have seen this correctly in the game at least, we have a 5th aspect, the flashing yellow, at least on the last signal in the sequence. So that we can more or less have on automatic signals those 5 aspects here. The ones that can be shown by distance signals and repeaters, and plus the red one. Whereas all the other aspects here, S6 through S13, can only appear on semi-automatic controlled signals. At least from what I have read in the rules and think I have understood. So let's have the last slide for today, automatic signals. For the automatic block signaling, samoczynna blokada liniowa. And we have already heard that there are two-state automatic blocks, blokada dwustwana, three-state blokada trzystwana, and four-state block, blokada czterostwana. This is our line, now running from left to right. We are exiting our controlled area at the last control signal, the last semi-automatic signal here. Showing S2, we can go, and this shall be the first controlled signal again of the next controlled area, showing a red here. Going this, the sequence can be like this, S2, S2, and then all of a sudden it turns to red. It is only a two-state, green and red. This is at the same time called the last signal before we get to the S1 here. And we can see the automatic signals just switch from go to stop. This is obviously nothing that we can use for a fast running train. And to make it even possible to use it for trains that can go faster than on site, we can use again the names for those signals that we have. We can have distant signals that warn us that the next signal is red. So we can have a distant signal, the ostrzegawcza, the toucher of ostrzegawcza, whatever, in our automatic sequence. Also here, not necessarily only on the last one, but on every one. I don't know if every signal has a distant signal then, but every signal can have one, at least from the rules that I have read. So even if those are automatic signals, then they can have a distant signal preceding. But obviously only those two, the yellow and the green one, not the flashing variants in between. That is something more like for, well, subway lines maybe, or for lines that are not running that fast. The typically used block is the three-state block. That is more or less what we know from British signaling as well. Same scenario again. We're leaving this area here with a high green signal, and first we are running along green signals, and then we are encountering a yellow one, a steady yellow one, and this is announcing us that the next signal is at stop. Again, I just took randomly this one. That is the last one before we get back into a controlled area. It's obviously possible that the last one here is the yellow one, or even that one is already the yellow one. That means we have one block to slow down to a stop. Actually, that limits the speed that we can go in this block, because we have one block for our braking distance to be warned properly. As I've already said and mentioned before, the red signals in the automatic area, the ones with the white mast sign, are permissive. That means we can stop in front of them, and then according to a certain procedure we can pass it with 20 on site. 20 kilometers per hour and on site, a bit like the stop and proceed signals in the American signaling systems, where they often have them, where you can just stop and then go on with restricted speed. So the automatic red signals are permissive and you can go on. There is one signal in the auto block that is an absolute stop and stay, and that would look like this. I have not seen it in the game yet. It is a red over a flashing red. It's rare and used, from what I've read, sometimes that controls the exit, the entrance to a tunnel, for example, so that in an emergency no train can enter the tunnel, not even if the train is running with restricted speed. But it tells us the important fact that in the auto block, the automatic signals, the red ones are permissive. Another thing that is absolute in the block system is if you have a line that is signaled in both directions. We have talked about this actually in the last video for the British system, where you sometimes have a bidirectional line that is signaled in both directions, and if the line is not used in the secondary direction, then the signals for that direction are put to red, even the distant ones, not approachable at red signals. In Poland we have a bit of a different system. Those signals for the direction that is not in use at the moment are blacked out. They are just extinguished. And those black signals, they are also absolute, because then you have to assume that you are running on a bidirectional line in the wrong direction, and that there is a train coming from the opposite direction. So this is why you cannot even go with restricted speed on. You have to stop and call your dispatcher and make sure that there is not a disaster imminent. And maybe a situation for a note-halt in this situation. So the black ones are absolute and the double yellows are absolute. Again, here a bit like the French system, right? One is franchisable and two are not franchisable. Difference between a carré and a semaphore. Right. That was the permissive and absolute reds in the auto block. And this is true for all automatic signal, not only for the 3-state auto block. The 4-state auto block gets one aspect more, that is the flashing green. Again, this reminds us of the British system that we have with the Azuma DLC on the East Coast Main Line, where we had the flashing green, steady green, yellow stop for a 4 aspect signaling line, or in the French system, the préannoyance or something like this was it called. We don't have it in the Transim World DLC, but it exists there. There we have steady green, then flashing green, then yellow, and then stop 4 aspect. And that we have here as well. We can have the flashing green, and this allows us to have 2 signals warning us about an incoming stop signal. So we can go at speeds that allow us to stop within the distance between 2 signals, not necessarily within 1 block, and this obviously allows us to go faster. What this flashing green actually means depends though on what signal you get it. If you get it on the last automatic signal, the S3, the flashing green one, then you have to prepare for a reduction in speed to 100 at the next signal, what is a control signal. Or, and this is not super self-explanatory, you have to prepare that you are getting a flashing yellow or a steady yellow, or an S4 or an S5 on the next signal. Not limiting the speed at this point, but announcing a stop signal or a reduction to 60 and 40 at the next signal that follows. So for the S4, the flashing yellow, you would have to expect a reduction to 40 or a reduction to 60. For the S5, the steady yellow, you would have to expect a stop signal at the next. So this is what you have to prepare for if you get a flashing green on the last auto signal in the 4-state ABS. Either reduction to 100 or prepared to stop at the next signal. If you can go 40 or 60, then all the better. After the 100 restriction, what you get next, we don't know. It's open because I crossed this out. If you have it on the penultimate signal, the flashing green, it is slightly different. Before it, obviously, it is a normal green. The signal that follows, we will look at this in a second. It also tells you the second signal after the flashing green can be at red. It can also be one that limits you to 40 and 60. Same situation here. Flashing green and the next one not, but the second one can be red or a limit to 40 and 60. So what will be shown at this last signal here? Either a steady yellow on the last automatic one, what announces actually that the next signal will be at stop. And in the game I have seen last automatic block signals that have a flashing yellow and S4 aspect. What is actually not an aspect that belongs to the 4-state auto block, because green, flashing green, steady yellow, red are already 4 aspects. And so the flashing yellow would actually be the 5th aspect in the 4-state auto block. Still in the game I have seen it. I have not yet managed to find a section in the rules that allow you to have on the last auto signal a flashing yellow. But it makes sense, because then you know whether you have to stop or whether you just have to reduce your speed to 40 and 60. So I think there might be some reason in doing it like this. If you have the flashing yellow on any other signal in the auto block, neither the penultimate nor the ultimate one, then you just know, like, okay, I have to slow down to be able to stop within 2 blocks. Then in this situation we don't know what the first control signal will look like, but we know that the next one will be a yellow one, a steady yellow one, and the second one, in this case the last auto one, will be held at red. Again, after the flashing green, 2 blocks until we get to a red one. And that we can distinguish this. The penultimate automatic signal in the 4-state block gets a distance signal board, even if it is not a distance signal in the technical sense. This is why you sometimes find signal with a white post and the distance signal board, the Vizcaschnik W1, because it is the penultimate signal in a 4-state automatic block system. And so you can distinguish the last one by the Vizcaschnik W18 and the second but last, the penultimate, with the Vizcaschnik W1 and any other signal in the block. And then you know what you have to expect after the flashing green. Another thing, because this works so well with the flashing green, we can even in the 3-state block have on the last one, but only on the last one, a flashing green S3 aspect that announces that the next control signal, in this case, might be reduced to 100 or might show an aspect that announces a stop or a reduction to 60 or 40 at the next signal. So the same situation that we have here, last signal in the 4-state block, flashing green, stop at the next, or maybe a reduction, and maybe a reduction to 100 on the next signal. Again, this can only happen on the last signal. This is why the last auto block signal is so important and why it makes sense to mark it with the Vizcaschnik W18. Before that, obviously, we would have a green, a normal green, high green S2 aspect here. Complicated, confusing? Well, if you look at it like this, maybe, but the ruling principle is after the flashing green, you always have 2 blocks until you can encounter a red one. You might encounter a restriction to 100 if it is actually a control signal that you're running at, or it might actually be easier, meaning less restrictive, a reduction to 40 and 60 at the second signal. Same here, from the flashing green, 2 blocks, 2 signals until we get to a red one, and here as well. And up here the red one will be the next one. Also here, 2 blocks until we get to the red signal. So the flashing green always allows for 2 blocks until we have to be able to stop. I think this is what I wanted to tell you today about what I have been able to find out about the Polish signaling system. Just a short recap. We distinguish between the semi-automatic controlled signals and the automatic signals. We have distance signals for the controlled signals. We have repeaters, typically also only for the controlled signals. And the system is like the HL systems. the HL system in Eastern Germany for the semi-automatic signals, and in the auto block it depends whether you are in a 2-state, 3-state or 4-state. CD radar, hello. So you missed the presentation about the auto block in Poland and the opportunity to laugh your ass off when I was trying to say things like Tarcha, Ostrzegawcza and things like this. What is that? What is that icon that Theodoro sent? Seems good. Yeah, that is good. Great. So, this is how to read the signals here. Speed signaling will be a different stream. Also that one, the Zastopchi, the subsidiary signal, is for the next stream. They make ample use out of this or of this in the game. And you encounter it a lot. What is not a bad thing. So we can go back and look what signals we can find here. What is a bit sad is that we do not have a free camera, so I cannot just fly about and talk about the signals. That one, what we can see here, gray post. Blue, we cannot really see it. It's only a shunting signal, even if it is on the high post.
Chruszczobród, Łazy is departing from track 2, platform 2. Please stand away from the platform edge. We wish you a pleasant journey.
Yeah, well, what did you see? What did you say? Mabo24, hello. Thank you for your first message on the chat. Nice to have you. The passengers sometimes hold their hands in a way that you might be afraid they will want to strangle you.
4614, ready for departure.
Whoop. Did I close my doors? Not yet. Never mind, I will watch videos as CD-Ray. Did I miss something really important? Nah, nothing that you cannot repeat. Only that for the first time I'm not streaming Train Sim World, but SimRail. So let's look at the signals a bit. A repeater, you can see the white light. 90 is announced. Controlled semi-automatic signal, you can see the striped one. Striped mast sign. I need to slow down to 90. Do you stream SimRail? Usually are the first. This is the first time for SimRail. I usually stream Train Sim World. Auto signal, last one. With Kashnik W18. But most probably I will stream more SimRail in future, because there is more to say about the Polish signaling, safety systems and everything. We're running up to a 100 limit. But it's a bit confusing. I did not see the last signal flash. Here. Yellow over green to 100, and the next one we need to prepare for a stop. Next one will be at red. Blue shunting signals we can ignore. Marbot says, I think this game can offer something better sometimes than Transim World. This is exactly what I think. It can sometimes offer something better. There are some things that are really nice. So we have to do some Be Real multiplayer. Yes? Just tell me what server you are on. Where you are dispatching, and I will come. So in my opinion it is a great game. Promises a lot, with already a lot of nice touches, interesting features. It can not yet replace Transim World, but I'm totally happy to have both in my portfolio.
Ready for departure.
There is ETCS on the Pendolino with about 400 km route from Warsaw to Krakow. Yeah. To Krakow, really? To Katowice, no? 100 and go. And yes, the ETCS add-on that they add in the last update is a huge thing. I think I will have a stream about the ETCS implementation, or even more. Oh. Next station is already here. Is it better ETCS than Tracer World? Yes. So, Rivet did a decent job with the implementation of ETCS, but it is, to be fair, child's play compared to what SimRail has now in ETCS. Obviously not everything works perfectly, but all in all it is a really decent job. Not only for the system itself, but at least you have space to use it. That's true. Yeah, that is true. Because you can really go like for 3 hours with your Pendolino.
4614, ready for departure.
You have level changes between level 1 and level 2. You have this preview section on the right. You punch in the data before you start it. You have an override scenario for the subsidiary signal. Here we had the announcement board for a automatic signal. And we won't be only on Poland. They've announced Dresden and US route. Yeah, I read this. This will be really interesting. And see, the radar says he saw some plans for a Czech route. Yep. Well, to be fair, there are still some things where Train Sim World is definitely better. Here you can see the announcement that the next signal will have a shorter braking distance after it. What is not so super important for us now because we have to stop here anyway. In Będzin, Ksawera. Theodore says that editor feature gonna open a floodgate if it's done correctly. We will see. It has a lot of things to offer, this game, and for the price you should not stay out of it. Passengers, you can actually see the passengers walking in the train, what you can't in Train Sim World. They look not as great as the passengers now look on Train Sim World, to be fair. But again, it is a really decent job.
4614 ready for departure.
And why they have two Fahrdrahts? Do they have two Fahrdrahts? I don't know. Dąbrowa Górnicza is the next one. There is a... Unlike in other signaling systems, this does not require you to turn off the main switch, but only to turn off your throttle. Then you can turn it on again. Flashing yellow announcing a limit to 40 or 60. It is 40 as the HUD tells us. They look like Polish people, alright. That facial expression though. Well, maybe. I spent 2 weeks in Poland in the recent years, and I can say the people that I met there were all super cool, super friendly. Here, the sign for not enough brake distance. Sometimes increasing the braking force with small hits can activate the emergency brake on the unit. I think you know, but just to be sure. Thank you. I have never encountered this before. But I'm using the cruise control to stop the train because I am lazy. Control signal held at red. Yeah, sometimes you have quite longish parts where you just wait at the station, like 8 minutes here. That can be a bit tedious, but this allows us to walk around. So this is not actually only a camera, the number 3, it is teleporting us outside our cab. So there is nobody sitting in the cab at the moment. You can walk about in the scenery. He uses the lazy train driver mode, yeah. Typically they encourage you to use AFBs and cruise controls. But look how they hold their hands. This sometimes reminds me a bit of the zombie apocalypse games. They all have the hands in this fashion. And earlier I played a service at night in multiplayer mode, and there was a passenger or a lady jumping in front of the train, just appearing in the headlights. So that really shocked me. I don't know if this was intentionally or a glitch. Just appeared like here, and you can jump in the game, see? Unlike Train Sim World, you can jump. Can run. We have a PIS on the train. And what I really have to say is there is no flickering on those computer screens that they have here. Neither in the cab nor on the PIS. Those Polish words, they look attractive, but also intimidating. Projekt współfinansowany przez Unię Europejską z Europejskiego Funduszu Rozwoju Regionalnego w ramach Regionalnego Programu Operacyjnego Województwa Śląskiego na lata. From Germany. So sorry for butchering the Polish language. It is a great language, but sometimes you think that the Cyrillic script would have been easier. Uwaga! Zabrania się wsiadać. Detail lever is always impressive in SimRail. You'll see better on other units. Po nadaniu sygnału odjazdu. Yeah, I have to say that the game turned off my computer a couple of times though, but only if I run it with the second screen off. So as soon as I have a second screen on, like when streaming or when running a diagnostics program, then it doesn't. And yeah, and it just turned it off like in an overheat scenario or drawing too much power, just turned it off. Here is the Elf. Said it is a Pesa Elf train, this one. And I talked to my brother-in-law, who is a game developer, also developing games for Unity. And he said that Unity is just pulling every little bit of performance that it can from the graphics adapters. So maybe this is why it pulled too much. Pesa, alright, yeah. Yeah, CD Radar, those trains are also exported to the Czech Republic now, right? Yeah, I limited the FPS, it go better then, but it's still... it still turned it off then. They are made here as a CD radar. Really? I thought they are made in Bydgoszcz, the Pesa trains. Ah, but the Czech ones. Hilden or AMD can also do that. Yeah, AMD I think I have an AMD graphics adapter. And I limited the FPS and it got better, but it still was. But if I have a second screen, I think then they reserve some resources for the second screen, and by reserving the resources, it does not go into this overdoing scenario. So, also the interior of the train is actually pretty nice. The toilets obviously are not accessible. You cannot sit down, so passenger mode is not. The way they fold their hands, well, what reminds you a bit of. But hey, those are things that can be improved over time. All in all, the $30 that you pay for the base game, you get a lot of simulation out of it. Are there any plans for VR support? Oh, I don't know. I think I have read that they were talking about a rail driver support, but for VR support, I wouldn't know, because that's normally not what I am doing. It would be cool though, yeah. I totally agree. So, let's see that we get everyone on board who wants to come with us. Derail Valley is cool, but it doesn't have real trains. The train is provided with 2 fire extinguishers, just in case.
4614, ready for departure.
Why no toilets? I thought SimRail is better than Train SimWorld in detail. Maybe we get the toilet update before we get out of early access. So we still were limited to 40 until we got to the signal. Because of the signal that we got before we stopped. So at least the game does not think that our anschließender Weichenbereich ends at our regular stopping position. There is a new first time chat to Imgo 2. Yes, it does, but it's a not real route. Derail Valley, yeah. There are toilets on the train. This signal is for announcing a level crossing. If it is showing the lights like this, it means everything is alright. Those are the honking boards. But only honk if there are 2 of them. If there's only 1 of them, it announces a level crossing without ordering you to honk. Dąbrowa Górnicza, Golonóg. Automatic signals. Here's the level crossing. Can hear it actually. Turn off the cruise control so that the train coasts. Station announcement board, just like in Germany. Honking boards. Oh. Now I have to brake a bit harder. Sorry for the spilled coffee. In the other older EMU, says Theodorus, you can go to the toilet. Yes, I've not checked this out. No, there was still some left, some safety margin left for my not overshooting. But look how this guy holds his feet. That's like Charlie Chaplin. Bernie is gifting 1 tier sub to Tiger Ways community. It's their first gift sub in the channel. Thank you so much. And it goes to Adivan99. Thank you so much, Bernie, for this gifted sub. Yes.
4614, ready for departure.
Wait for the doors to close. And we go. ZD Radar says, great new game. And new and more people are coming on. That's great, yeah. And they are talking on about Derail Valley. We're stopping in Dąbrowa Górnicza, Pogoria. By Heisen's community, yeah. Almost a hidden hunting board. Honking board, not a hunting board. And the physics simulation for Derail Valley, yeah, this must be really interesting. I've watched some videos about it. So, if you think this is stopping you too short, just put it back to 10, and then you can put it to 0. So, probably make new room on Discord for SimRail. You are right, I should make a SimRail room on my Discord server. I will get to it as soon as I am finished with this stream and have taken out the dogs again.
4614, ready for departure.
Thank you for being on my streams, says CD Radar. Oh, it was a nice stream about the Semmeringbahn. And it is really nice listening to you talking in Czech. Even if I don't understand a lot, it sounds nice. Flashing green on the last automatic here. Will be a 50 before we stop there, 100 on the next one. Flashing green on last automatic, prepare for a limit to 100 on the next control signal. And this is what we are getting here. Can coast. The map layout that I'm running on it, I actually can't because I have not found any way to show a map. Theodorus, is there a way to do that? 5 announced. Limit to 100, stop at next. I've actually been looking for that. But unsuccessfully so far. So the limit to 50 here is somewhere along the line. Google SimRail map and you can even see the one in the MP servers with players. Aha. Interesting, but not from the game, right? So not from when you're playing the game at the same time. Here's the limit to 50, and here is where it already ends again. You can see there are players and also occupied stations by players. I don't remember if you can from the game. People always use the one from Google, so I don't know if you can. Thanks for that. I will look into this after the stream. I wasn't aware that there is such a thing, but it's actually not surprising. Next one is a drive-through. Dąbrowa Górnicza, Ząbkowice, DZA. Yes, I have a Discord server. I will put an invite under this video as soon as I put it on YouTube, and I can also put one in the chat as soon as I'm done driving the train, in case anyone is interested. External cameras 3. Well, there are no external cameras 3. I'm afraid external cameras 2 must be enough. Ah, CD Radar has a Discord link. Thank you very much. But this proves that number 3 is not a camera, but it actually teleports you out of the cab. Paul, I'm so sorry. I missed the radio sign, I'm afraid. Yes. What channel was it for the radio? I did not miss the sign. I switched it to 1, but it's 2. All right, then that's 2. Dąbrowa Górnicza, Sikorka. Next stop. Oh, and I missed the honking board. Don't worry, Chile, it's not far anymore. We're almost in Zawiercie. And there are no longer no longer station stops.
4614, ready for departure.
See, the radar is visiting Poland in the summer, so good to know everything in advance. Those words, CD radar. What is that now? Chruszczobród or something like this. I hope the game and community can grow like Run 8 for the serious simmers. The online map seems nice. So he checked it out. Great. Well, if you read the discussion on Steam about it, you would think like, well, give those developer guys a break. It is so negative. It really surprised me on how negative it was, because it is a great achievement, this game so far. Well, the station names are intimidating, but where? Hey. Friend request of CD Radar. Yeah, I will accept as soon as I'm out of the stream. I will accept gladly. This will make you my 5th friend on Steam or something like this. Doors closed. You'll be my 8th, the CD Radar. That is nice. Next up, Wiesiówka. Does this EMU has ETS functionality? I don't think in real life. I don't think so. But there is not too much information about this train in real life that I have dug up so far. What server you are on? At the moment, I'm just playing a single player. Adam. I know I can clean the windshield. Yeah, that is true. I can do that. Oh, I missed the honking board because I was reading the chat. See, we can wash, turn on the wipers. And then we can remove the dirt from the screen. Also a nice touch. So what is this unit? This EMU? The Pesa Elf train. I stopped short. What? Did I drive with open doors? See? That totally punishes you. I thought I was already in the area where I can stop. Now it is okay to stop. And now I can open the doors.
Ready for departure.
So, doors closed properly. And now I'm late. Departing behind schedule. Now we have to push a bit harder. Drive through Łazy, whatever this may tell us. Next stop is Łazy. At least here is a bit of a distance, so that we can run on max speed. Signal is incoming. Let's see what exactly it will order us to do. There will not be a speed limit at this signal, but it will announce a speed limit at the signal afterwards. Repeater 2, repeater 1. Katowice or something. Stop. It is just announcing a stop. So now with a bit more on the brake at first, at least. So. I heard a joke in a meme site that in Germany they're surprised if the train late only by a few minutes. In Poland they're surprised if the train actually arrives, says Theodoros. Well, once in my life I was on a Polish train.
614, ready for departure.
And it was punctual and took me from Warsaw to Szczecin in like 4 or 5 hours. So all good there. This was the SHB system that Mabot just was talking about. Drive through Łazy. Yeah, well. Wikipedia says that those in the Czech Republic have ETCS level 2. Ah! The new ones for the Czech Republic. Maybe the Czech version of Wikipedia tells you more than the English version tells you here. But that's Czech Republic, considering is a Polish EMU. Made for Polish rails, and the Polish one doesn't have ETCS. That's why CSX motto is how tomorrow moves, because we ain't getting there today. Jokes by the train crews and rail fans. Well, it was a drive-through, guys. Why am I reading the chat when I am supposed to focus on my driving? But all new trains here must have ETCS, because it is planned to introduce ETS on. That's why it is strange. So next stop is Zawiercie. That is the last stop. Incoming signal is probably announcing a stop. Here we have to switch off the power. Here we cannot turn it on again because we are not a locomotive. But here we can turn it on again. But we don't wanna, because we're almost there already. We can coast on. Last time honking. And rushing in at Zawiercie. Doors, and that's it. This is the screen that you get when you're at the end of your service, but you can also leave anytime and still get your points without finishing the scenario. Same for the multiplayer. Let's see how we did. Here we picked up a bit of a delay. Well, that is okay if you have to read the chat all the time. You can look at the graph that is telling you, and here you see, if you teleport into your train, you always get punished for opening the doors outside the station, but somehow you have to get into the train. And then you can see a speed profile versus the max speed, and then switch to the correct radio channel, stopped at the station, use the horn accordingly, driving through a checkpoint on time, horn, 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 horn. And here in the end I lost my focus because I was reading too much chat, and I was late. I was driving with open doors because I stopped too early on that platform here. I missed the radio and 2 honking boards. So, really nice. Back to the main menu. On Mabot, what did you say? You can even run freight services with ETCS. The Dragon has it. That's interesting. The Dragon I have actually not tried so far. You can see the mileage of the unit, yeah. And I think they changed it. It shows your personal mileage now, the mileage that you have driven in the game so far. Before that, it was a much bigger number. So I think it was some let's see if the Dragon has the ETCS. If you have, so I think it was some fictional number, just and now you get your personal mileage. If I get this there correctly. So the Dragon is the E6ACTA. On all the versions or only on the one? In the depot it does not show. Maybe it needs to be turned on first for that. Does it listen to me at all? Well, we save this maybe in the info tab. We will save this for the ETCS part of the Polish safety systems when we discuss them in a different stream. For today, I think it was enough. 2 hours 17. Thank you so much, guys, for listening in, bearing with me. I hope it was not too boring about the basics of the Polish signaling system. Can we do a raid? Where do you want to raid to? Just suggested. I've never done this before. Train Sim TV is online. AJ, are you awake? Can you tell me how to do a raid? I've never did something like this before. I just put this in the chat and then it works. Alright. So guys, let's see what happens. Raid now with 11 viewers. Did it work? I have no idea. No, I guess someone raided it and I just stayed here. I don't know. I need to end my stream and then I go too. Okay, then I end my stream. Guys, thank you. And see you soon.